Hello, people. Saturday morning. I have finished a book. Seem to finish a lot of them on Saturday morning. Pontius Pilate. This is my second book by the author Anne Rowe. The first one was A Fool and His Money. Life in a partition town in medieval France. I really enjoyed that, A Fool and His Money. This one, I enjoyed it. There was parts that I ate up, but there was also parts that I kind of struggled through. All the time that I was reading this, I'm wondering, why the fuck would anyone really even choose to write a book about Pontius Pilate? Because it's not really about Pontius Pilate. It's about what we thought about Pontius Pilate and the myths and the forgeries that we made up about Pontius Pilate. There's really nothing. There's some coins. I don't know if I was thinking about something else when I read through the coin part, but I can't remember what the coins were. Apparently his name was on them, and they circulated in Judea. And there was also he had built a building dedicated to Tiberius, and they put a plaque on it, much like they would today. And as the building, over the centuries collapsed, somebody took that plaque and they repurposed it, which happened all the time. And they found this plaque as part of a stairway somewhere that people had been walking over for 500 years. And so even the shit that's written on that plaque is up for interpretation. But it does appear to have Pilate's name on it. And it does appear to be a building that was dedicated to Tiberius. So, other than that, there's not a whole lot that is definitely attributed to Pontius Pilate. Anybody that wrote about him did it decades later. People that wrote about the same thing, the same instance, their stories are not the same. They all tell a little bit of a different story. And many of the things that they have found over the years, end up being like crude forgeries. So, the book was written in 1999, 384 pages, and I have the name Jesse written down here because I was at King Book looking for this book, and I talked to a kind of a new employee there, a gentleman named Jesse, and so 2 weeks later I go back, and I hear somebody call my name from behind me, and it's Jesse, and he has saved this book for me. And I felt so bad because I didn't even fucking remember his name. The nice young kid. Got a little bit of reading to do. Top of page 67. The weather has broke here, and I don't have quite as much clothing on as I usually do. Almost all such governors' records have vanished from the passage of time. Historians and mythmakers alike have agonized over the disappearance of Pilate's archive and the puzzle of whether anyone saw or consulted it while it still existed. Many suspect that, if it survived for any length of time, it was suppressed for the short, sharp reference to Jesus it presumably contained. So, why would you suppress that? Because Jesus wasn't a big deal at that time. The book is interesting. There's a few pages, maybe 50 pages, where they talk about, they don't even know where fucking Pilate came from, And there's like three main stories. The word Pilate means that you're an accomplished thrower of a lance or a spear in a language like one of the tribes of Italy, so he may have came from there. Pontius, there's an area in like Anatolia or the Black Sea area, the Pontus. He may have came from there. And then later on, in the medieval years, it became fashionable to say that he was from Germany. That blame it on the Germans like they always do. They don't even know what he looked like. She speculates on his appearance. I already talked about the placard. Bottom of page 95. By the time Pilate was appointed in 26, Tiberius had already been persuaded by Sejanus to retire from Rome and from much of the business of government. He was, after all, 68 years old, and although his health was good, he was worn out by fears, suspicions, and debaucheries. The rugged cliffs of Capri and the deep blue sea entranced him, not least because access was so difficult. When a fisherman scrambled up the rocks behind him to present him with a fresh-caught mullet, Tiberius was so terrified at this breach of security that he ordered the man's face to be scrubbed raw with the fish. When the man cried out, "Thank goodness I didn't give him the crab," Tiberius ordered him to be scrubbed with the crab as well. I did read a book about Tiberius, and Tiberius apparently had some kind of a fuck festival place in Capri. And then other authors say that that never happened at all, that was just Roman propaganda. 157. Bottom of second paragraph. If something could not be explained, it was better to suppress the worker of miracles, rather than let his power spread. A man once visited Tiberius, broke a crystal goblet, and put it together again by passing his hands over it. Tiberius, horrified that he could not control this, had the man killed. I've read that same story attributed to somebody else. I can't remember who the other person was, but it was different. It was glass that you could bend, and then you could hammer it back into shape. So that story is probably not true. Bottom paragraph of page 209. "2 days before that Passover in 33, or perhaps it was 30, for the year has never been determined exactly, thousands of Galilean pilgrims streamed towards Jerusalem." So they don't even know what year Jesus was crucified. It could be 33, it could be 30. I thought this had been established, but at least as of 1999, it has not. 249, and that's it. I'm going to another bookstore today. I've been informed that there's a new to me anyway, there's a used bookstore much closer. I don't expect it to compare with King Book at all. Bottom, first sentence, last paragraph, page 249. Joshua, and in parentheses there it says Jesus, Barabbas, if he was not invented, seems to have been a bandit and an outlaw. So there's no proof of that guy either. I don't know. When you're reading about things that happened 2,000 years ago, it's kind of hard to establish the authenticity of what you're reading. Sometimes you just have to ask yourself, is this possible? And certainly this Barabbas guy is possible. It could be part of the story. But there's nothing anywhere in writing. And again, anybody that wrote about this did it, 30, 40, 50, 70 years later. So we have no idea. things like Arminius, with the destroying the Roman legions, Varus in the Teutoburg Forest. There is contemporary writers who wrote the exact same story, and there's archaeological evidence. So, and it's possible. So we can probably figure that that did happen. Some things you have to ask yourself: is this possible? Did this happen? Maybe it happened. I mean, there was prophets all over the fucking place in Judea, and I have to believe that a lot of them were put to death. There's other stories in here about sometimes the Roman governor would just ride out with some legions, and they would kill the guy and slaughter his followers, and that seemed to be the thing to do, just to keep the peace. Thanks for watching.